The question is, how is the individual will of people and their decisions, how is that related to God's laws operating upon me?
Emotions are transmitted between people. You know that.
Yes.
So if I have an emotion where I will accept a certain emotion from you, you will have a higher intensity if you have an intention to deliver that emotion to me. You'll have a higher desire to do it because you'll know you'll get away with it. And that's just a normal consequence of the flow of emotion. In other words, if I'm open, maybe it's a great way, this is a great way of putting it. If I've got a cup and it's empty and I put a lid on it and you try to pour water in it, the water's not going to go in the cup.
Yeah.
But if I open the lid of the cup and then let you pour water in it, water will go in the cup. Right? Now, let's say that water is emotion. Let's say it's an unloving one.
Yep.
If I've got a lid on it, no matter you might try to pour it in, but it's never going to go in. So you're not going to get the satisfaction of it going in, are you?
Yeah, I get that.
Right? But I take the lid off, and now you will get the satisfaction of the emotion going into me. And that will give you some kind of feedback mechanism. It'll make you feel better, usually. It makes you feel like, oh, you've accomplished your goal.
Yeah.
Abusive people want to accomplish their goal.
Yes.
And what their goal is usually to make us feel something.
Yes.
Right? Now, if I do not receive their abuse, right, then they won't feel like they've accomplished their goal. And it's highly likely they'll go off and try to do it somewhere else.
Yep.
Because they know with me, they won't accomplish the goal.
Yep.
Does that make sense? As soon as I put that cap over, which is processing forgiveness, puts the cap on, because it identifies to me what the sin is, and it identifies to me that I should no longer allow it. So now it's like putting a cap on my soul, if you like, my emotions, right?
What I'll allow to enter.
What I will allow to enter me.
Yeah.
People who are unkind take advantage of other people. They take advantage of your injuries. If they know you will allow something, they will do what you will allow.
Yeah.
Right? And it's, in some ways, it's also similar to children who are being unkind. We'll do the same way. You see it a lot with children with their parents.
Definitely.
When a parent has an emotional injury where they are open, the child will take advantage of that injury. Right? It's almost automatic for the child if the child is unkind or undeveloped.
Yeah.
Right? For an adult who's unkind, it's the same. They will take advantage of the injury. Now, that is an operation of the law.
So tell me how that's law-based.
Because it's law-based because the law states that if you will allow something, then somebody can give it to you. If you allow something, it's a desire. It's a desire that is fulfilled.
Yeah.
It will be given to you. Whatever you ask for, you will receive. So if I'm asking to be treated badly, I will be treated badly by somebody. Right? And the only place where that won't be possible is if I was way up in the celestial sphere somewhere, right? I was completely perfected in love, then of course I would never have a feeling of wanting to be treated badly anyway. But let's say that I was living there in that place. I won't be treated badly by anybody who's a good person. But I still attract people who are bad people treating me badly.
When I'm in the celestial heavens?
Well, no, I'm using just an example of in the heavens.
I see.
Right? In the celestial heavens, as I said, I'm no longer open to being treated badly, and nobody will treat me badly in the celestial heavens. But I can go down to the hells and somebody might try, but it's impossible for them because I'm not open to it. Right?
Yep.
Now, the same principle applies on earth. You can't be treated badly and feel badly about it unless there's an openness to feeling badly about it.
Yeah.
Right? And that's an operation of the law.
Yes, thank you. That's
in other words, if I close down the aspect of, close down my openness to something, to some bad treatment, then it's highly likely that I'll be treated badly less. Right? And that's the case with all of God's laws. And that's the law in operation. So the beauty of this law operating in this way is manifold, but let's look at one of the reasons why it's a very good thing. One reason is that you can live in a terrible environment and still get an attraction that shows you need to forgive.
In a terrible environment?
Yes.
Wouldn't you receive a lot of things that would show you that you need to forgive if you live in a terrible environment?
Of course.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. You can live in a terrible environment and still know you have to forgive. You can see, most people believe that if they live in a kind environment, that's when you know you have to forgive. But I'm saying no. The reality is, sooner or later, it will come to your attention, even in the most worst environment imaginable, that at some point you're going to have to forgive.
Yeah, I guess I'm laughing because I find it's more pronounced to me in environments. I live in a very kind environment living with you. And at times it's easy for me to skip over the fact that I need to forgive things because there's not many people in my day-to-day life treating me that badly.
No, but it is easier to forgive things in this environment.
It is definitely easier, yes. But my awareness...
Because the people around you, me primarily, is going, I'm supporting you.
Go for it.
I'm supporting you forgive. I'm supporting the process of emotional processing and working your way through and forgiving. Whereas you might be living in another environment where they're not supporting it. But what I'm saying is, in another environment where they're not supporting it, you still are going to become aware that you need to forgive.
Yes.
Because of the way the law operates, you'll realise the damage to yourself that occurs by not forgiving.
Yes.
Right? And that's immaterial to the environment. Right? You feel the damage to yourself. And this is what I'm saying here, is that the people who are in kind, the feelings that happen obviously are going to be, the law is going to generate feelings in me that actually accept unkind behaviour from people, to the point where I see the unkind behaviour occurring regularly
as a problem. Yeah.
And I now start seeing that I'm the common factor encouraging this unkind behaviour. And then I go through processes that cause me to go into forgiveness of the unkind behaviour. Now, this has happened to me with many aspects. Like, most of the time, as you know, I get treated quite badly until I deal with something, and then I get treated better. And it's very rare for me, actually, to be treated well before I deal with something, because there's very few people on earth who want to treat me well. And so what happens frequently, like, for example, with the women issue, I attracted more and more and more and more women treating me badly. Right? Until I became aware, oh wow, they're treating me badly. See, before then I wasn't aware. Before then I wasn't aware that women were treating me bad. I'd just go along with the bad treatment. But now I'm aware. And by processing through forgiveness of those women, which I'm still doing, by processing through forgiveness of those women, less and less women will treat me badly. Right? They will feel less drawn to treat me badly. Is probably the better way to put it.
Yes, and you're
by
saying,
the law.
You're saying, but also just to clarify, you're saying, because earlier you said just your allowance is your desire to be treated badly. That's quite confronting. I know it'll be confronting for some of our listeners. The allowance that I have, because a lot of people I know want to feel, look, I allow it, but it still hurts and I don't want it.
Frequently not the case.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of reasons why. We learnt as children that allowing bad treatment gets approval in some ways. So what we end up with is a balancing act. We allow bad behaviour on this hand to get some what we think are good results on this hand. You see? And so in a lot of ways we are supportive of the bad behaviour, not because of the bad behaviour itself, but because of the results it gives us in another area of our life. And so, for example, a woman who's allowed to treat a man badly will often think the man's good. So he gets to feel he's good, allowing her to treat him badly, right, under certain circumstances. So she might treat him badly in one area of his life, but she basically says, oh, my husband's a good husband because he basically lets me do what I want, and he basically lets me treat him like I want. And so that makes him a good husband. And so the husband then gets to feel things that from his childhood that he wants to feel in addiction,
Yep.
and he doesn't recognise the sin of a woman treating him badly.
Yes.
And this is an example of the feelings involved here and the laws that govern those feelings.
Yeah.
So people who are unkind can attempt to use control, condescension, manipulation, bribery, attack in order to benefit from me avoiding the emotional process of forgiveness.
Yeah.
And that is allowed by the law. That's allowed by the law. To help me become cognizant and aware in a place where there's only bad people, or there's mostly bad people. And so the way that God's constructed the law is whether I live in a good environment or a bad environment,
Yeah.
right, where there's good, kind people or bad, unkind people,
Yeah.
I will still become cognizant and aware of where I need to forgive.
Yeah.
And that's the result of that law.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it feels pretty bad, because it just feels like, what happens is you're initially unaware, and so you don't really know what's going on. And then you start developing awareness in this place. And then it's like everybody seems to want to hurt you the same way that you've already been hurt.
Yes.
And that usually tells you you're on the right track, that you're actually getting somewhere now.
Yeah.
You're becoming more aware that that's wrong. And now you've got to get to the state of humility towards the actual forgiving emotion. The emotions need to be released so you can forgive. And once you go through that, then all that stops.
Yeah.
And that also then tells you you did the right thing.
Yeah. We'll talk about the exact steps in forgiveness in a
Sure.
later section, won't we? Yeah.
Sure.
So, yeah.
But it was important to explain some of it there. It's just
Yeah,
so that we
sure.
understand the process, if you like, that's involved.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've covered a lot in what it feels like as the laws operate upon me to motivate
Can I mention the next one, because it's a little bit different as well, which is people who are unkind who attempt to utilise my lack of recognition of the sin of others in order to get me to do what they want.
Yeah.
Now, this is very important to understand too, is that when I don't see a sin, I allow it.
Yeah.
And that includes sins perpetrated towards me. So if I don't see that you, for example, have sinned towards me in a certain way, I will allow future sins of the same kind towards me in the same way. Now, people around me who are unkind will take advantage of that. They will go, I can always get away with this with him. And they do. I allow it. I desire it almost, right? Because of my condition, I'm allowing it. And they get away with it every time. They're getting away with it every time. And this is to help enlighten me, to help me see, wow, this is happening all the time. And these people are taking advantage of it. And how unkind is it for them to take advantage of me having this injury? It's very unkind. And that then makes me more sensitive to how sad I feel about that. And then I will hopefully go through the process of forgiveness, where I let go of that emotion of how sad I am about being attacked for having a weakness, right, that other people take advantage of. And once I've come out of that, I again will I will notice every single person who's trying to take advantage of me. Which is fantastic, because now you can make decisions. You can
It's
say,
so good, hey? You get sensitive to everything. Yeah.
yeah,
I find that perhaps the hardest part for me in many areas, becoming
in what way?
of recognising the sin against myself.
Yeah, because it feels quite sad, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There's a lot of sadness involved. in
Well,
it.
what creates that resistance to recognising the sin against myself? Because sometimes I think it's my resistance to the sadness, but sometimes it's literally beyond, for example, I have the benefit of you or other people around me who are kind. You say, didn't you notice this thing? Or what I notice is about the way that people have treated you or what you do with people. And I think, I just thought that's normal.
Well, this is the thing, is that if we don't forgive, whatever we don't forgive, we will believe is normal.
That's right. But in this process of forgiveness and the laws operating upon us, you're saying we have to move initially through a process of realising, on the way to forgiveness, we have to realise hey, that's not normal.
Correct.
And it's from what I've experienced thus far, it's an intellectual but crucially emotional process of coming to recognise that something is a
let's
sin.
say it's not normal, it's not right. It's not so much.
It's not loving. I
Yeah,
suppose,
you know, because you know, normalcy on the earth is very, very different to normalcy from God's perspective. So yes, we initially feel that it's okay.
Yeah.
That it's what we expect, and we
It's standard behaviour.
It's standard behaviour of treatment of
Yes.
us personally is how we see it.
Yeah.
And then after a while we go, hang on a sec, even though every person on this planet's doing it, it's not right. It shouldn't, it's not normal. It's not God's definition of normal. And this is what I had to go through in the first century. Every person that I ever met treated me badly. and it was very, very difficult to go through this process of coming and actually working my way through these feelings of forgiving everybody for their bad treatment of me, recognising the sin in every action and yet forgiving it.
So sometimes I think, say for you in the first century, having a relationship with God established from a young age can assist you to feel God's feelings about things, which makes you infinitely more sensitive to what is loving and what is not. Like just bam,
Well, yeah,
straight away.
when we talk about the conscience in a few sessions' time, I forget which, I think it's 2 sessions' time. We're
depends
planning.
on how long it
Depends on how we
takes.
go. But you'll see that, you know, how this mechanism that God has of communicating truth with you, if you're sensitive, can be very, very helpful in engaging forgiveness and repentance.
All right, I'll leave what I was going to raise there. Till then, I think that's probably the best.